founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvisesa Sanjavari Paskajade Satarni. So welcome to what's officially called the Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita Sunday evening class. And it's always regularly done by Daivi Shakti Mataji, but she's taken a few weeks, she's doing some things. So I'm here speaking just Prabhupada Katha, and not necessarily from the Leelamrita, although much of it is in different places in the Leelamrita. So, in thinking where to start this evening, and just before we came, my wife and I, we were talking. I see on, like many, I was on Facebook, and I see pictures of Srila Prabhupada. I put pictures of the deities on every day since coming to Vrindavan. But there was a picture of Srila Prabhupada, and it was very early. It was in the 60s, maybe around 1968. And there's a few of his disciples on either side of him. 3-4 disciples are there. And they're walking at the airport. And Prabhupada's carrying a bag. There are no other bags. It's just Prabhupada carrying what's known as his white bag. It had an official terminology, certain things. So Prabhupada was carrying his white bag. So the devotee who put on the photo or someone commented how that was offensive. Why should Prabhupada be carrying that bag when he has disciples walking next to him? And I had to laugh. And I said, I was with Prabhupada for 6 months before he let me carry the white bag. Prabhupada carried the white bag because that's what he wanted to do. Right? And devotional service is understanding what the spiritual master wants you to do. So when I saw that, and I've known Prabhupada at different times carrying his bag, because what's inside his white bag? Who knows? Money. 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 Yes. Lakshmi. Everywhere he went, he was getting also Guru Dakshin, huh? Like we see here, they're all outside with their little basket looking for donations. So we did that. We had to go out as well. That's what you do. So inside there was money, Lakshmi, American money, this money, that money, and also his BBT account book, bank account book. That was Prabhupada's. He managed the account. These temples were built by the help of the BBT. Money from selling books. Back in that time, Prabhupada made all that arrangement. But he was carrying his white bag. And also different items from his desk would be on there. I always say he had a tilak set. So there was a compact, and that had ivory. It was carved ivory was in there. It's a little compact. Anyway, so we can speculate. We think we understand what the service is to the spiritual master, huh? And say, why isn't someone carrying that bag? I learned very quickly with Srila Prabhupada, you do what he wanted, not what you wanted to do for him. We had this morning's class, we had a little humor, truth. There's always humor. Well, sometimes, hopefully there's humor and truth. He was saying, how the person says, Krishna is God. He's the owner of everything. But then when it comes time to give, they find the rupee note in their wallet that no one will use. You can't use it in the market. You put that in the hundi. Everything belongs to Krishna until it's time to give it to him. Everything, no, not this. So, like I say with Prabhupada, from the very beginning I was thinking, the very first days, how did he do it? How did I do it? I was 20 years old. I was in a temple for a year. Because all we did was talk about Srila Prabhupada. Could never imagine becoming his servant. Never dreamed of it. Even though I idolized his servant when I saw him in Los Angeles. And I thought, someone takes care of Prabhupada? I never imagined. Someone does everything. Is with him all the time. And then I would look at him, his servant. I was fascinated by his being a servant. But he was a servant. I was in New Vrindavan. I was on the farm. I had no idea, no expectations. But I saw him doing it. And then 6 months later, I was doing it. Today I was thinking, because I saw Prabhupada was pure devotee. I didn't know even what that meant. Still don't know what it means. Pure devotee. But I was able to be with him, sit with him, walk next to him. It was mystic power on his part. Even how we could do any service. No one could look. I saw the other day, probably no one else in this room. In the 60s, 1964, a great phenomenon happened. The Beatles came to America. They were on the Ed Sullivan Show 3 Sundays in a row. People in America, they showed video clips of young girls passing out, screaming, couldn't contain themselves, seeing these 4 young guys with, they're called mop tops. But I was seeing it, and we're seeing it, and just see. Imagine what it is to have love of Krishna. They were insane. And I guess it's gone on at other times with other people, but to see it, a frenzy. And then I hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, day after day after day. And as Sarvabhauma spoke about this morning as well, to become that attached to Krishna. I was listening to Nectar of Devotion lecture. I was at the temple president's house. We were listening to Prabhupada speaking Nectar of Devotion, 1972, at Radha Damodar Temple. In the courtyard, Srila Rupa Goswami Samadhi Bhajan Kutir. It was called a courtyard because it was a garden. It wasn't a well-kept garden, but it was outside with trees and birds and monkeys. And Prabhupada's giving class on Nectar of Devotion. He was talking about love. Everyone wants love. This is saying Nectar of Devotion, 1972. It's just young disciples. They're at Radha Damodar Temple. And Prabhupada's talking to us about love of Krishna. He said, this is what everyone wants, but they don't know Krishna. He said they don't know, so they go to so many different places to try to find how to fulfill. That's why I became a devotee. I wanted to feel love. I wasn't needy. I didn't need anything. I left everything, like so many of my God brothers and God sisters. And to be with Prabhupada, the person who has the most love, so much love, he was giving it freely to anyone, welcoming them in, reading in his room. Before 26 Second Avenue, he was in this little room. It was like a closet. With the entrance, the door was just big enough to open up to the room. He'd bring people in, preach to them. He'd give them a piece of apple on the way out. Exchanges of love from the beginning. We were reading in Lilamrita, Prabhupada's determination to come to the West, to go to the West, to go to New York City, to Bowery, which was literally known as the lowest possible place in New York. It's where all the drug addicts were, alcoholics, literally leaning on the buildings. That's where Prabhupada started the Krishna consciousness movement, giving love. Everyone looking for love. But I was thinking, how did I be his servant to be able to do things and not be frozen, right? Just in awe every moment. This person who is doing all this, he's right there. But it was Prabhupada's mystic potency, bewilders you. He bewildered all of us. He made us all think we were pure. Everyone running around 24 hours a day by Prabhupada's inspiration. Encouraged everyone. He was saying that the nectar of devotion in the class and at different levels of devotee. Kanishta Adhikari, he said. They worship the deity in the temple. They don't know how to make friends with devotees. They don't know how to serve. Greatest devotee is one that serves the devotees, most pleasing to Krishna. Become servant of the servant of the servant. Prabhupada said, I wanted to follow the orders of my spiritual master. And he wanted me to preach in the West. He said, but I couldn't do it on my own. We sent you all representatives of my spiritual master, he said. This was pure devotee. We all look for the opportunity just to hear him, to see him for a moment. Devotee described that the other day. 1/11th of a second to see a pure devotee. We have here everything Prabhupada did. We have here for the last few days a very special devotee, God brother. First pujari on the altar. There were a few of them for the opening. There was Govardhan. He was temple president, but he was pujari, talented, gifted, make everything beautiful. Narottam, everything first class. These were our best people. Prabhupada had them come here. Pretty opening. And he was fortunate enough to stay here for another year. Not like today. 30 pujaris on the altar in the morning. No, they're lucky if there was one on each altar. They'd be happy everyone turned up that morning. no money. So many plates they made every day. 10 plates. One person would have to do it. 10 plates for the deities. All by Prabhupada's inspiration, to do anything. Anything was possible. 3 days, he showed me everything I needed to know. 3 days. I always say everything is in threes. That was also in threes. Showed me how to use the cooker for 3 days. While I massaged him and the cooker was there cooking away. The first day we went into the kitchen in Dallas. Set up the cooker. Wash the rice. He's cutting the vegetables to put in the middle section of the cooker. He tells me to prepare the rice. He only says as much as he needs to say. He doesn't follow it up with a description of what that means. Just says, put the rice, 1 cup of rice in here. And you just have to know. Just like you have to know if he wants to do something, if he wants to carry a bag, you don't even ask for it. You should be that attentive. That's what I learned. Be attentive every moment. So Prabhupada brought all the best people here for the opening. Vrindavan. We talk about the 7 temples, right? What will they say in 100 years? When this temple will be the 8 temples. A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada established this temple here 150 years ago. You think many people are coming now? It'll be 100 times if everything goes on. More and more. What do we call it? Bittersweet. When something's bittersweet. Those of you who are chocolate connoisseurs, you know what bittersweet chocolate is. It's just sweet enough. It's bitter too, for some people too bitter. Vrindavan, so bittersweet. Srila Prabhupada taught us everything. How to love. Imagine, say, in the 60s it was a very popular concept, love. As the decades went by, it became less popular to even use the word love. We had love feasts. Now we're afraid to talk about it. Prabhupada said, we're all looking for love, and Krishna's right there. When I was listening to it, Prabhupada speaking, talk about Madhyama Adhikari, Madhyama Uttama Adhikari coming back down. And you can understand, he's saying it from realization. He's not like one of us out here in the morning lecture, just da 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 da. That's nice to repeat what we heard. But Prabhupada, when he's speaking from knowledge, from perfect knowledge, from realization. When he's describing coming down, he's talking about himself. In order to preach, he said, they come in order to preach, because they're not interested in saving themselves. We're also fortunate. Oh, he say, because I feel it our great fortune to be in this place. People that come here and visit, even being here now for some years, you have to be attentive. People come and tell you what it's like to walk into Prabhupada's room. And you think, yeah. I walked in his room every day. It was the most normal thing I ever did, was walk in and out of Prabhupada's room. Our whole business is to develop love of Krishna. That's what the pure devotee shows you. He's giving it to everyone. I know how he took care of us. All of us that traveled with him. He showed us the example of what to do. It wasn't something forced, wasn't for a show. Genuine. This is at least, as Prabhupada describes in that lecture, Madhyama Adhikari. Make friends, friendships, relationships with our peers. Everything went on. Prabhupada called me in his room one day. He said, all the devotees, he said, so difficult, follow the regulative principles, chant 16 rounds. He said if it wasn't for their chanting of Hare Krishna, he said they couldn't do anything. So much intoxication, drugs. These were the people that came in the beginning. Intoxicated. Yeah. Engaging in free love. Free love. Misdirected, Prabhupada said, misdirected love. He said, I just had to show how to love. But these people came, and Prabhupada empowered them. He said, if not for the chanting of Hare Krishna, their chanting of Hare Krishna, he said they couldn't do anything. And I say it was just his chanting, the power of one pure soul with a desire to make the whole world Krishna conscious. But you could walk right next to him. You could talk to him. The fortune. So we're in the kitchen. So now he tells me make a chapati dough. I knew how to make a chapati dough, although he showed me 3 different types. But that day I made the chapati dough, and then after the massage, it was time to cook. So we couldn't find a rolling pin, for the chapatis. He said, that's all right. I'll show you how to do chapatis without a rolling pin. And I thought, mystic powers. He's going to exhibit mystic powers now. Who knows how to do it? It's a very wonderful method. You do 2 at a time. So you start out with 2 balls that you flatten out, 2 round balls, equal size. Then you just sprinkle a little flour, you put the one on top of the other, and you keep turning them and doing that, and you'll get perfect chapatis. And Prabhupada said, better than with a rolling pin. And you made 2 at once, not 1, you made 2. It takes a little practice. That's one of the first things he showed me, how to make chapatis. Imagine the efficiency. He had his cooker. He literally didn't need anything else, not even a rolling pin. He could make chapatis. And Prabhupada ate chapatis every day. Every day for lunch, he had chapatis. Every day I cooked practically the exact same thing. split mung dal, basmati rice, just plain basmati rice, a little salt. That was it. And the vegetables we steamed in the cooker, he showed me how to do that, and then he showed me how to chaunce them. And that was the only chancing I did. It for 2.5 years. I did that same type of chaunce with very little variation. Every day I cooked for him. And that was ghee. It was always ghee in cooking. No such thing as oil. It was ghee. And Prabhupada in his personal cooking didn't use a lot of ghee, just for chaunce. So the first chaunce we made in the lid of the cooker. It was like a wok. The lid was round, so it was a wok. It was literally a small brass wok. So you made a bigger chaunce because you would pour some into the dal. And then the remaining chaunce, you put some vegetables in there, and you roasted them a little bit, and that was one vegetable. Then you'd make another chaunce, and you grab some other vegetables that were in the cooker. So you'd have 3-4 vegetables. Bitter melon, chlorella, fried, deep fried, salt and turmeric. This is how Prabhupada showed me. Chapatis with a little ghee, and they all puffed up. Was mystic power. Mystic power. I say Prabhupada never criticized whatever I cooked, because he did. He would ask for prasadam. I tell the devotees here all the time. He would go to the temple, say, give me the Raj Bhog. And whenever he asked for it, he didn't like it. And I can only assume that's why he asked for it. And that he already knew it wasn't right. He knew because, as he said, Krishna could talk to him. He could talk to Krishna. He greeted them every morning. That's what we do. We greet. But he greeted them. And they talked to him. He said they talk to you. He said they can talk to you. Just have to qualify yourself. What was Lord Chaitanya say? Prabhupada said in that Nectar Devotion class, whether you trample me under your feet, I don't see you for 12 years or more, or whatever you do, that's okay. He said, that's love, not what we have, exchange. He said, that's love no matter what you do. And one that has it can give it. We say you can't give what you don't have. Prabhupada had it. And he gave it freely, just as Lord Chaitanya did. To anyone and everyone that crossed his path, he was ready to deliver. That's what he said. He said, that's the preacher. He said, that's what we want. Whoever you see. So there's other japatis. Who knows another kind of japati? I made some little today. We had sour milk, so I just curdled it up, and you put your flour right in there in the curding way. And you make, he said, that's a nice winter chapati. Prabhupada called it here in Radha Damodar Temple. He said, that's winter chapati. So it's literally made with curd and whey, a little salt and the flour. And the other one, he showed me the whole, to put the ball of dough in water, cover it in water, and you let it sit for an hour or so, and then you get the gluten. So and it changes the texture. So he liked chapatis. So we're talking about here. As I said, I hope I can get him to speak a little bit. First pujaris, Prabhupada empowered. Krishna Balaram Mandir. We already know we have our 50th anniversary in 2 years. So we're already thinking of things that we have to make it very wonderful. 50th anniversary. I hear, like I say, 1972, Prabhupada told us to be careful. We would dive into the water at Keshigat. Jamuna was right there, up at Keshigat, especially during Kartik time. He says, so be careful you dive in, you don't hit your head on a turtle. There were turtles in the water, snapping turtles, bit. So he told us to be careful. Never. One day, here in Vrindavan, 1974. So this was when Prabhupada was ill. Almost a month, not eating. So much happened. And I was his servant at that time, so I was busy. And then a devotee that I first met in the temple, New Vrindavan, he was here, Kuladri. Because then I got sick. Prabhupada was sick, then I got malaria. So he was working. So then we both recovered, and Prabhupada recovered. And he rang the bell one day. I went in the room, offered obeisances, and he said, go get Kuladri. So I went back out, I got Kuladri. We both went in, offered obeisances. And Prabhupada looked at us. He said, you boys, he said, you've been working very hard. He said, today you should both go to the Jamuna and spend the day at the Jamuna just like young Brahmin boys. And it was the first time Prabhupada ever told me to go anywhere. And it was with my godbrother. He said, you go to Jamuna. And we couldn't believe it. You didn't go anywhere. You were Prabhupada's. The temple president, there's one kurta I wear, striped kurta. Whenever I wear it, always says the same thing, prisoner. So first few times this happened, 1 week, 2 weeks, and then finally he said, prison kurta. I said, yes, I'm imprisoned by Krishna Balaram. I say, very happily imprisoned. So that's what Prabhupada did. He imprisoned us so we couldn't fall into Maya, because she was right outside. She was everywhere. What did Prabhupada say about Loy Bazaar? You can't find Krishna in Loy Bazaar. He's right here, you can find him. Right there. This is what Prabhupada gave. So it'll be 50th anniversary. And there's probably 1,000 times more people than there were at that Kartik festival. Maybe 30, 40 devotees. That was a big festival. Prabhupada knew. I don't know what he knew, but I knew at that time he knew he had created a worldwide society on behalf of his spiritual master, and he wanted everybody to see the result of it. He didn't feel any shame. He had Westerners, Malechas. He was proud. He converted us into bhaktas, sitting there before Rupa Goswami's Samadhi hearing nectar of devotion. He was proud of us. And that pride pushed us. Do anything for that person. Because what he went through just to give Krishna to us, none of us have gone through anything like that. The years, and always when I read in the Lamrita, 5 years straight, just wanting to go to the West and bring Srimad Bhagavatam. And took his typewriter, they took his tape recorder. He wrote a letter. He said it was worth 1,000 rupees, which at the time was about $150. That was a lot. Just took it. But he didn't get discouraged. It's like he just knew it was up to him. And then he saw it everywhere he went. Hundreds of disciples, hundreds of people, thousands of people chanting. And we get to be part of it. But you have to know what the spiritual master wants. How to serve. We grew up on that phrase. If the spiritual master asks for water, you don't bring him milk. We grew up hearing that again and again and again. It's very simple, but it's very profound. You have to know. That's what he says about Krishna. How can you love him if you don't know him? Same thing with the spiritual master. You have to know what he wants. It's there in the books. Somebody asked me some silly question the other day. I said, read Prabhupada's books. She said all the answers are in my books. If you don't know the answer, it just means you're not reading the books. Should we stop here for some questions? Is anyone listening there? Have any questions? So Kuladri and I went to the Jamuna Keshi Ghat, and we found a spot with lots of clay, and we covered our bodies in clay and just laid there for hours following our spiritual master's instructions. Prabhupada wasn't against fun, but everything there. Yesterday we had so much fun. It was the monthly Maha cleaning on the altars and all the paraphernalia. You can't have more fun than that, being on the altar. Seeing Krishna Balaram, lotus feet, and everybody scrubbing top to bottom the deity's altars. This is what we learn from Prabhupada. Cleanliness. I read another story, someone else. It was a boy, devotee man in the early years. And Prabhupada was showing him how to cook. And he also kept saying, wash your hands, wash your hands. Same thing he did with Jamuna. He knew I was on a different level. He never told me to wash my hands. I think from the outset he knew, don't waste your time with this one. Just whatever he does, my wife's agreeing back there. Whatever he does, just accept it. Because he knows what he's doing. He's good at what he does do. But he did right away in Hawaii. Rang the bell after I took his lunch plate. He said, you haven't washed the table. You're a Brahmin. That's what he would do. You're a Brahmin. You don't clean after the plate's there. Then he just expected you would do. You knew what to do and you did it. And then everything was very peaceful. And I strive for that because I like peaceful. Didn't like upsetting. Didn't want to see. I didn't like seeing anyone upset Srila Prabhupada. What to speak of myself. I didn't even like seeing him upset because someone else had done something. But he always forgave, and he always that the book Be Here Now, Prabhupada, of course, Vaishnava person, but he was the most present person. Where he was, that's where he was. And that's what he was doing. And he was always seeing everything in relationship to Krishna. When he was outside the temple, he would see the work of Mahamaya. He would always give us instructions just by pointing at examples. The birds in the trees, the buildings, everything was an example to show you Krishna. To speak of the flowers, he was observing, and then he would say something. Any questions?
Thank you, Prabhu. What kind of spices did Prabhupada like?
A good question. At that time, especially in the West, we didn't have Indian stores or any, or when any stores now you can get most spices in the West. But we had cumin, coriander, hing was there, mustard seeds. Myself, I was a connoisseur in cooking. I cooked very simple, but it's what he showed me. I cooked him what he showed me. I realized, and that's what he wanted. One of the first things he said to me, everything was instruction, how to do your service properly. And he said, don't put too much on my plate. If you do, I'll lose my appetite. And I tell that to here in the temple. Just like the deities. They're persons. They're people. Why are we there? Why are we standing in front of them if they're just marble? What's the point? They're living persons, the supreme persons. But they're persons. And that's what Prabhupada said. He said, if I want more, I'll ask for it. And that's what he did. I was in and out of the room so many times with chapatis, he could always bring a little more dal, Is there any more of that sabji like that, and then you would do. And whatever was left, we would eat it in the cooker. I distributed, his plate. Sometimes there was no one around. We would just have it ourselves. We were very fortunate, very, very, very fortunate. Just Prabhupada's mercy, and we were very happy to receive it. I never said no. Initially, I did when he wanted to give me something. But I learned through him that it's considered an offense. If the spiritual master wants to give you something and you reject it, that's an offense. So I was always very happy. If he called me in and he would say, open the Elmira, I immediately thought, he's going to give me something, and that's what he would do, But spices, so those spices were there, and I didn't deviate too much. And a little crushed red pepper, right? Crushed red pepper, a little bit, and he never asked me to adjust anything. I mean, literally in 2.5 years. So, and he was eating it, so I think he was content. I think he was okay.
Same spices for the different subtleties or little variations?
Little variations, yeah. As I learned a few things, when to use mustard seeds and watch them pop. But that also was trying because we were always traveling. So it's not like I had a kitchen. Some places literally was just, even LA where I stayed for months. It was just 2-burner stove on the floor, gas burner, that used to be hooked up to a radiator, a gas radiator. So that was my kitchen, in Los Angeles. But everything worked out. It was all Krishna's mercy, Radharani's mercy. It was mystical that everything could go so nicely most all the time. Yeah. Anything else? Vishaka Saki, you have a question?
Last time you were talking about Prabhupada saying that you said that if we change any deity standards, then we will ruin our society. Can you elaborate about the standards Prabhupada set for the deity worshipping? Whatever you heard him in the room before opening the temple?
Here in particular, I wasn't, a lot of the standard was after I was gone, because I was here for the opening. But most of the information that you'll hear comes later on, and, it was to the pujaris that were here. But, it was the one place, knowing it was Vrindavan, where he said that, only the men in the visible. He said visible. Women, he said, could work in the background. He said, but for this temple, he said, Vrindavan, it had to be like that, And certainly at that time it was, very much like that. The rest of the society mostly was women, were the head pujaris in many of the temples. And like, in the West it was Shalavati, she's in New Vrindavan now. She's like 93 years old or something. But she was one of the first trained up pujaris by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said that, 1 hour it should take to dress the deities. 1 hour, that was his. He said everything. Prabhupada was very efficient. You'll see stories about him preparing feasts for dozens of people in an hour's time. Like he bragged here, saying, Srutakirti cooks my whole lunch, 45 minutes. Isn't that right, Srutakirti? He said, yes, Prabhupada. And I said, and while that's happening, I said, I'm giving you massage. He said, yes, cooking and massage, 45 minutes. So less time doing things you need to do so you can have the time to do the things, chanting and reading. That's what Radhanath Maharaj was saying. Better quality. Prabhupada ran the whole society, worldwide society, in the BBT trust, and traveling all at the same time, and translating books all at the same time. And I'll tell you, I would just see him sitting and chanting. He wasn't running. I never saw him running around frantically. Everything. It's like they're just spinning. Not to minimize his hard work, but he made everything seem effortless. And that's why I could be there. I can't be around crazy. It was peaceful. Same morning, that's what my morning, Mangalarti, Tulsi Puja, Then there's greeting the deities, Guru Puja, class, and somehow it goes all the way up. And then it's time, you have time to do what you need to do. That's what Prabhupada did. I said that last week. Every afternoon, that was his bhajan. Nobody interfered. Nobody came in with questions at that time. There were times, and you just knew when you could do something and when you couldn't. All right. We'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.